GM, everybody, welcome. Welcome to Wake and Jake, yet another episode. Appreciate you guys being here as always to sort of talk through some of the macro stuff and stuff to look forward to for this week. As always, I'm joined here with Jake and Bake. He's going to tell us what's on his mind, what he's got planned for the week. But as always, the show is rated NFA for not financial advice. Always make your own financial investment decisions. Yeah, it's been a big week. I am a little bit I'm touching grass kind of at the moment. I'm being forced to. I have no internet, so and Discord mobile is trash, so you guys will have to bear with me. I'm basically a glorified normie right now. I'm the same as your dentist that is hitting you up going, hey, what's going on with that Bitcoin? Because I'm just totally out of the loop. No, I know prices are ripping. I know the last Mainnet had there's some war stories to be shared there. We're all here for each other, so we can get into that stuff too. But Jake, how you doing this morning, man? How was your weekend?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thankfully, it's warming up here in Michigan. I don't know how long that's going to last. You never really know, but was able to touch a little grass this weekend after being fully in the trenches for last week with a lot going on. A little re-energized now and ready to get back after it. I think we're really approaching the season where it's kind of all gas, no brakes. Probably pulling some late nighters, maybe a little less sleep. Sacrificing for being able to take advantage of the opportunities that await us here. Excited to get into it. Like THC, none of what we say is financial advice. We're kind of just giving our own opinions and doing some analysis, looking at some upcoming events. Hopefully, making some predictions to try and help everyone out. And again, like the point of the show is to get everyone, ready for the week ahead, and also to get some more buzz going within the Metaverse HQ voice chat, get it rolling again. We had an awesome week of it this past week, especially with Blast popping off. We had over 100 people in voice VC. We'll chat about that probably a little bit later in the show, but yeah, whatever topic we touch on, we're gonna open it up to you guys too. We want you guys to give your input, thoughts. If you guys have questions for us, whatever. We want the community to join in on the show as well. And also feel free to chat here in voice hangout chat. That's where we'll be chatting up as well and dropping some links as well as we go through the show. So yeah, ready to get started, man.
Yep, well said, everybody. I'm doing excellent. I guess I'm better because I'm happen to be outside. I'm like seeing nature. It's the first time in weeks, months. I've seen the birds flapping around and stuff, so it's beautiful. So I'm gonna enjoy this while I can, because I know, like you said, it's about to be all gas, no brakes time. So this might be the last time the outside world sees me for a bit. Cool, yeah. Appreciate your sort of overview. We can go ahead and just go straight into macro stuff. I'd love to just hear your take with where prices are and everything, and maybe an update on that ETF stuff. If the inflows are still strong, I know that was kind of your predictions that the inflows will stay here and that eventually price will reflect it. Price is doing price things, so just wanted to get your take there, just on macro, the ETF, and just where the market's heating up, where it's headed.
Yeah, for sure. Last week in general was a really good week. We saw it continue to increase net inflows. On Monday was about 500,000, and then it got up to about almost 600K, and then about 670K on Wednesday, and then interestingly, GBTC, the one that was dumping a bunch early on when the first ETF dropped, they've actually picked up their outflows again. Whereas on Thursday, we had only about 92 million in net inflows, only 92 million, but that was a pretty sharp decrease. And then we actually had net outflows of 140 million on Friday, with GBTC continuing selling a bunch. I saw again this morning they're probably selling close to similar amounts, or it's about 500,000 or so Bitcoin again today. And it's interesting because it's not really affecting the market. We still got a pretty big pump just this morning, kind of on market open. When everyone could see really on chain that was happening. So I think it's probably people are like not worried about it as much anymore. It would be my guess. I was trying to look into it really, if there was any like exact reason on why there's now an uptick. Maybe it's just their personal positioning on people wanting to sell, hopefully like sell the top, I guess. So they're ramping up a little bit. Um, but I think people are just like realize that there's not it's not gonna be able to last forever. The selling is and in general like this on wave of demand is only increasing with more normies coming in and how we're reaching this all-time high. I think it's just like this kind of momentum is too strong, I guess, just to stop this wave of this GBTC holding it down like it was originally when the first ETFs got approved. We were trying to kind of gain that momentum. So I thought that was interesting to at least touch note on. I shared a graph in Voice Hangout chat where we can track all this, and you can see the total net inflows and outflows of these ETFs. It's usually updated. For whatever reason, like traditional finance is like so far behind crypto in terms of like I don't know why it takes so long to update, but it like takes like 7 hours or so, like until after close, until they actually get accurate data on the inflows and outflows. So that's kind of annoying that it's hard to like really pinpoint in real time like what's coming in and out. Um, but yeah, so that's a good sheet to track if you do want to continue to track. But in general, it's looking pretty bullish. Another thing to look at, I think, is these funding rates and open interest rates. I have another chart here where things are really ramping up. Oh, it's not letting me copy paste. What the heck? Yeah, I'll paste the link. But this is a heat map basically of funding rates. And what funding rates are is basically how much you have to pay to keep your leverage position open. And here I'll share this 2 week one where you can see it's drastically ramped up here over the course of 2 weeks. So like leverage is at a very high amount right now. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I think if everyone wants to be on the right side of the trade, like prices can still go up, right? With even if there is high open interest across the board. Um, but I think what's going to show us is that there's going to be a lot of volatility. Like we saw earlier today, even before the run up, there's a big wick down too. Before that happens, and then a big run up as well. So I think it just is going to increase volatility. So if you are someone who is seeing a lot of like these leverage wins, right? And you're thinking to yourself, "Oh, I need to get in on that." Um, I would caution, even though I don't want to be a hypocrite because I know I'm sitting here posting like leverage wins and stuff, and I do it plenty myself. So I don't want to be a hypocrite and just say don't do leverage. But I think you should understand your own personal strengths with it, like how experienced you are with it. Like personally, I watched and waited for like over a year before I even made a single leverage trade. Um, and then I started dipping my toes in slowly with small amounts and trying to in defining like a real process and just staring at charts for thousands of hours until I kind of figured out, I guess, how I wanted to go about it, my own personal strategy. So that being said, I don't think it's something that you should FOMO into because it can be very dangerous. Right, leverage basically is just an amplification of profits, but it's also amplification of losses depending on how much price changes. So, I think that's gonna be something that's tempting for a lot of people when they're seeing like these big leverage wins, and it's kind of like a good market for it in the sense that prices are going up across the board, so it's a little easier than normal. But also there's gonna be like these flushes, right, where people where there's people are just too over leveraged. There's too much greed, and then they get wiped across the board, and there's going to be some big red candles that liquidate people. Um, and that's just going to happen. There's just going to be more volatility like that. The safer route is always spot and chill. But if you are doing the leverage route, I just want to throw out that word of caution because I think there's going to be more and more people that hop on that train. trying to chase profits. And I just would encourage, understanding, like doing a self-assessment of what your personal experience level is and your personal strengths are, and understanding like how hard you need to go, or if that is in fact the right decision or not for you. Just understand what you were doing. I would caution, um, in general. But I don't want to be the one who's like, I don't want to be the hypocritical person saying don't do leverage when I'm the one when I'm sitting here doing leverage like crazy. I just want to like make it known that like I've been doing this for a long time now, so I feel more comfortable doing it. And I also have an extremely high risk tolerance, like a stupid, like idiot level risk tolerance, compared to most people. So just understand, those type of things before you do dive into it. Yeah, in general, I think, I know we're probably going to get to a little bit more, but I think the risk curve is like ready to, not the risk curve, but in general, like the market in general, I think is looking pretty good. I'm still very bullish. I've been talking about how bullish I was on recent shows. I still am very bullish. There's just going to be kind of like these flushes in between, right? So we have to be careful.
Awesome, dude. Well said. And yeah, thank you so much for the insight into the leverage trading stuff. You actually just nailed it, dude. I had about 3 questions I was going to ask you, because I thought you were done with your spiel, and then you just proceeded to answer every one of those questions I had. So great shouts about just like the preparation that it took you to be ready to do this, and just like your stupid idiot risk tolerance. Like that all is part of the equation there on why you're able to post those success, because I know people see them, right, the leverage long success posts. And I was going to ask you if you're long in this week, or how you're going to deploy capital, or any of those things. So great shout outs. One follow-up question I was going to ask you: is there anywhere people can paper trade, or is there any place that you recommend? I guess surely there are places, but did you do any paper trading when you took that year, just trying to sort of finding your method of attack and stuff, or in practicing, or did you just sort of just eyeball it and do it mentally?
No, I didn't paper trade. I guess what I did is I wanted to. I knew that it wasn't a strength of mine, so I sought out people who, like, good traders, like mainly on Twitter, who, were kind of like posting plays and stuff of their posting trades ahead of time, and kind of following them and seeing how well they did, and like just watching charts, and like learning from them on like why they are in a certain trade, like what are the reasons for it. And I kind of just watched from the sidelines, for a long time, and figured out, I guess, also there's kind of two things, like kind of figured out a little bit of how it works, and then also I figured out who had like good intentions with what they were posting, and who were like good people to follow, that actually gave actionable advice. And because a lot of people are just LARPing or trying to sell you something, or like pretending that they know what they're talking about. And even though they sound very confident, they're actually a pretty shitty trader. So, it was kind of just like
Got
a
it.
discovery. Yeah.
Yeah, that's dope. Did you copy these people, or is it mostly, or is it more so like dissecting the trades that they post and trying to figure out, like, get in their head, figure out why they're bullish, why they're bearish, and then over time sort of stitching together if they're a good actor or not? Or were you putting your money on the line and sort of copy trading?
Yeah. I'd say like most of the time, I mean, even now, most of the time, I mainly copy trade. I've always been open about that. Like that's my strategy. I posted a whole Twitter, or posted field report. I think probably like a few weeks ago or so, about like my favorite Twitter follows, and those are like the main people that I usually copy trade. But I just know that like and I'm getting a little better at, like, I am posting my own trades here and there. Like I've gotten some nice whiff trades that I did myself, and like a couple Bitcoin ones. I'm slowly like starting to feel more confident of getting into trades on my own. But for the most part, I still am copy trading, because I know it's not like my expertise on getting in and out. I think what I've learned mostly is like how to like exit a trade, um myself, because even like these guys who post about their trades, like a lot of times they'll post entries, but they won't post like when they get out of the trade, right? So I think it's it's something that I'm still developing. Like I still don't feel like an expert, honestly. Even though I like post big numbers, I still don't feel like an expert. I'm still like learning, and I'm just figuring out my own strategy that works for me. But yeah, for the most part, I'm copy trading people.
Beautiful, awesome. Yeah, that's another fantastic shout about time in the exit, right? Because you can copy trade the entry, but then you're kind of on your own. And I mentioned earlier, the equation of getting into it. That's 60% of it, is the exit. So, yeah, another great shout. Well, okay, that kind of works with the next thing I wanted to do, and maybe I can add a little onto it now. With that in mind, so I was going to ask you where you plan on deploying capital for the week, but I guess something that we could tack on the end of it is there any places that you plan on withdrawing capital from? Is there anything you're willing to cash out on that you're up big on, or is there anything else that you're looking to throw some money at this week in particular?
Yeah. I don't know if there's really anything in particular. Like I'll certainly make some trades, I'm sure. Some leverage trades, but there's not like one specific thing. I will say like I'm gonna continue to farm Merlin chain. We've talked about this several times already on this on the show, and we thankfully we called out the Voya airdrop that people got into. Voya's cooking a ton. That was awesome. But Merlin chain, if anyone, just quick recap, if anyone doesn't know, it's a L2 on Bitcoin, and they're gonna drop their main token Merl um this sometime this month. They haven't said yet, but they just said March, right? So it could be like any time. And they're gonna factor in both staking assets on Merl on Merlin chain, which you can actually stake a lot of ordinals on there too. Like I think you can say like node monkeys and like bitmaps for sure, and like you can stake some BRC20s like Ordi as well. Um, and at the same time, they're gonna give a portion of the airdrop to people who just use the chain and swap and create LP positions. Um, and additionally, their main dex called Merlin Swap is going to do their own token, and uh, they're going to give some allocation based on activity as well. So that's what I'm trying to do with a lot of wallets. I'm going to kind of go the breadth route, and hopefully I don't get filtered out for sibling. We'll see. Hopefully there's no one on Merlin chain in our Discord right now listening to this that works for the team. That suck. Um, but good luck finding my wallets. Um, anyway, but yeah, so that's a good one. I think in general, this is a little bit of a tangent, but I guess in general, I think Bitcoin stuff is going to continue to do really well, like infrastructure. Kind of like the not just Bitcoin itself, but the coins and the NFTs built on Bitcoin. That also goes along with like the L2s. Um, I think they can reach some pretty crazy valuations. Just given that like right now Merlin Chain's TVL is like I think it approached like 3 billion. Even though some of that is like NFT projects and those are a bit liquid factoring in, that's still like 3 billion, still a pretty insane amount. That's like 50% more than what Blast had. And it's something that probably a lot of people haven't even heard of, or like just barely heard of, or like have seen like not a lot of talk of, and it's already like 3 billion TVL. So I think the token itself is going to be worth quite a lot of money, at least in total market cap. I'm not sure what the distribution will look like for wallets, but I think that's a good one to farm just because the token's coming soon. So it's not like a ton of liquidity that you have to use that. So I'll be doing that, and then another thing I think I'm going to be looking at is meme coins. I wanted to get into that a little bit. Um, have you been diving your toes in the meme coin streets at all?
A little bit. Blast mainnet launch. I kind of got cleaned out, made a little bit, lost a lot of bit. So just one of those love hate relationships, an abusive relationship that I keep going back to. So TBD there. But tell me, please, what's on your mind?
Well, we've obviously seen them going crazy this last week. Like I think anyone that's been around has seen the headlines and the trending posts, and everyone's been talking about how well the meme coins have been doing. I think I think there's just a lot of things piling together that suggests to me that this is not like the top of that. this meme coin cycle. Like I think we still have a good ways to go. Like I think it can get pretty crazy um, from where we are right now. I know there's a lot of there's still like that take profits. Like this is gonna be the top um, mindset that a lot of people have just from bear that has been like ingrained into them. Like we need to take profits right away. Um, and I get that for sure. I think taking profits is great. Like always, like being conservative with your funds is great. But just in general, with how like this cycle is playing out, so much similar to what we saw last cycle, and just like the confluence of events of Bitcoin almost reaching its all-time high right now. Um, we've seen I think there's just going to be a lot of normies coming back. Like we've already seen what's his name? Dave Portnoy is like doing from Barstool is doing like his Davey day trader thing again. We're seeing like streamers like what's his name? The Aiden Ross dude, and I don't know the other ones. I'm not super into it, but I've seen them talking about how much their Ethereum is worth now, and they're like talking about prices again. I think that's only going to lead to more and more coming in, and I think a good thing to track is the Coinbase app rank. There's actually a good Twitter I found that like tweets out daily um what will rank the Coinbase app is the app store. So like basically how many downloads it has. And when we were at I think when we were at like peak all time high or around all time high last year, like it got to like number one, I think. I want to say. In the app store. But for just for reference, like today, I think the most recent ranking was 162 overall in the App Store, and about a week ago it was at like 422. So it's definitely increased a bunch, but it's also like only like 162. Like it still has a long ways to go. Um, so I think there's going to be a pretty big wave and of new people coming in, and like what new people want. I think new people have learned from previous cycles or just last cycle, I should say, that um that memes are the way that they can like really hit it big. Uh they see Bitcoin at $66,000 and they're like, "Oh, I can't afford a Bitcoin." Right? I want to buy whatever is like the cheap coin that I can like 100x my money on potentially, right? And then I want to get a big bag of that so I can become rich. Um and they learned last cycle that that's how a lot of people did get rich from like Doge and stuff. So I think it's only going to accelerate this cycle where it's going to be like uh, a faster, I'm not sure what the word is, like transition to the meme coins for new people, like where that's like, they're going to be like the first place that they look. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there. If you can front run, I guess, where the attention is going. I've talked about this in the past, but front running the attention is pretty important. I want to kind of step back for a second and like I think in general, like this meme cycle is similar to last cycle. Like if we look at where Doge was the all-time high. It actually happened. It didn't happen when Bitcoin hit all-time high or really anywhere near it. Like Bitcoin hit all-time high in November of 2021. Um, but like SafeMoon and Doge, they hit their all-time highs a lot earlier than the total all-time high. They hit it. SafeMoon hit their all-time high, which was a huge coin, obviously at the time, about mid-April, and then Doge hit its all-time high in early May. And this was at a time where Bitcoin was also pumping at the same time, and Bitcoin was about 3 times its previous cycle to like the 2017 cycle all-time high at the time, around like 60K. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like you hear a lot about how it goes macro coins and then it goes altcoins, and then it goes meme coins, NFTs, right? It goes like down the risk tolerance in terms of like that's how things cycle. But I think this is playing out a lot similar to what happened last time, isn't that like meme coins actually pop off early in the cycle, um, more than you would expect because I think that's like the initial thing that people go to. Like they want to. This is just my personal take, but I think they just want to hit it big, right? So they go to what's going to really pop off, and that's similar to what's going to happen this cycle, in my opinion, too. Like, I think we're only in the beginning, even though we've already seen huge multiples. Like, WIF is up over 300 something percent. Like, Bonks, I think close to around 300%. PayPay is up a ton, too. I think we're kind of just at a point where, yes, we've pumped a bunch, but it can get a lot crazier from here. I think we saw that last time, where Doge did like a 10x in like a month or whatever. Um, I think a similar thing can happen again, and it can happen quicker than what we expect.
Yeah, I like that thesis. I think the hardest thing is just taking profits, man. Like with meme coins, it's so insane. It just can get so nutty, and the multiples just start to get out of control. I've never been able to understand the psychology of people that hit these, 20,000 X's on like their whole bag. Like I couldn't fathom. You know what I mean? So when the pumps start coming, man, and they get ferocious, yeah, I don't know how you guys hold on to your bags and diamond hand them to get to Valhalla. But yeah, maybe a field report or something like that could help out on how to take profits on these shit coins, man, because they just get so wild. Um,
It's
but
tough. I'd say personally, like I'm not holding any of these for a long term. Like I would not look to hold any of these meme coins, especially now that like attention is ramping up. Like probably not more than a couple months on like anything because I think look, I mean, just look at last cycle. You could see that like all these meme coins basically hit all time highs early in the cycle. They hit all time highs around April and May, and even though Bitcoin and ETH hit their all time highs later in the cycle, in like November, months later, these other coins never really got there again. I'm not sure exactly what the psychology is around that. I think it could be something similar. Again, and I wouldn't personally like want to hold long term to find out, even if you are super, you know, in like as invested as you are into whatever that meme is and that cult and that ecosystem. Um, I think just taking profits along the way is a good thing. DCAing out. I think we have a good. We actually there's a good article. I think it's pinned in the shitcoin chat, possibly from Consortium Key, where Bogart, fellow member Bogart, wrote about taking profits on meme coins and how he has like a set strategy that he does. And he just implies it everything that he does, where he takes off like I'm not sure exactly what it is, like 15% on every like 10x or 5x or something along those lines. I'm not sure exactly what the numbers were, but I think employing like a strategy like that, where if you do, no matter how much you believe in something, like setting yourself to a certain amount, like every 2x or 3x or whatever, you take like 10% off or 15% off or whatever of your bag. So you are at least ensuring that you're coming home with some profit, right? And that you are at least going to be selling a little bit near the top, even if you don't perfectly time it.
I'm going to take this as an opportunity here to segue into a field report roundup. We didn't have a ton this week, but still want to go over these. Just give everybody a shout. We had Aslo actually is on topic here. He has a field report. It's his final February field report, 2024 macro and profit taking. I didn't get a chance to read that one yet. It looks pretty chunky, so maybe there's some profit taking answers in there for us that we're talking about here. We also had Guberville. He dropped farming field report on DFlow, which is on Solana. And we also had JD, as usual, bringing in the weekly preview, bringing in that heat, keeping us, focused and on track for the events to come. Shout out to JD as always. And we also had Rossboss, who dropped the value of aesthetics and vibes in trading JPEGs. So I know we're very coin focused and stuff right now, but when it comes to JPEGs, obviously aesthetics are important. and he breaks down just how he goes around and shops for those good finds. But I also wanted to shout out Ross. Last week he had come up and talk about Natcats. They had the Boss Dogs show, which was incredible. Um, I wanted to kind of give that a shout and see, Ross, if you wanted to kind of, like, ordinals are going crazy, man. I'm pretty sure Natcats have mooned since then. So I would imagine a lot of people, if they followed your field report and listened to your shots and stuff, would have made a decent chunk of change. Did you want to come up and talk about ordinals at all, or take a victory lap? Or anything else? Man, I'd love to hear from you and how your bags are doing, man, because you were screaming Natcats from the rooftops to anybody that would listen. Seems like it's going well.
Yeah, dude, thank you. I was indeed screaming it from the rooftops. I was calling not only people in crypto, but out of crypto, being like, listen, you need to spend 5 grand on these cats, but trust me. And now they're worth 9 grand. So it worked out. And if you followed from the time of field report, it's like a nice 4x. But if you followed WAF, it's just an insane, 100, 200x from where he minted. So definitely appreciate the shout. Definitely tune into Boss Dogs tomorrow because we'll be doing an extended dive into ordinals. But yeah, definitely just to briefly touch on it. The market's obviously red hot, and I really liked what Jake was saying earlier about how we've seen this stuff before. And let me know if I'm starting to get rugged here because I'm noticing that my Wi-Fi connection is going in the green to orange. But
Bro, you sound the
yeah, we've
best
seen
I've
it.
ever heard
Go
you,
ahead.
Ross.
Wow,
I'm saying you
amazing.
sound the best I've ever heard you, man. Please.
Let's go. Stuff definitely has a tendency to go vertical, but if you recall a field report I put out a few weeks ago, it was just be ready to buy the dip. So if you're FOMOing big onto some of these projects, I would just be prepared to buy the movement downward. And that was something with Natcats. I called them out at one point. I think they went on Magic Eden, they ripped up to 0.12, and then they fell all the way back down to 0.07, and you might have been panicked and got paper handed out, and now they're right back to their all-time high. So I think with any of these collections that we're trading, meme coins, ordinals, ethereum, like, just find your conviction and then wait for dips. I would really never recommend you dump all of your liquidity into one project unless you just have like a very small bankroll, right? Like if you only have a few $1,000s, that's not to say that there is no hope. I just think you need to be a little bit more strategic about it. And if there is a project that you have a ton of conviction and you can only afford one of, go for it. But I would say other than that, don't just buy 3 Nat Cats and then have no liquidity left. Like I would buy one of a project and then leave some money in case it dips. And same thing with meme coin. So just be on the lookout, like this is something that I'm actively thinking as we're going in here. I do think we go a lot higher at some point this cycle, but I am expecting that blow off top. Like I'm expecting at some point it's just pure euphoria and then the hammer comes down and the market just aggressively sells off. That's usually the result of these kinds of things, just a spectacular blow off top and then back down. So I think we have a ways to go, but I just really want to emphasize that I am planning on writing a field report at some time this week, just talking about euphoria and just knowing when to sell. And like that's the biggest takeaway I have. I definitely don't want to like victory lap or hype any other projects. Like shit's extended, shit has run up a bunch. So if you're buying anything, do so with caution. I definitely think things can still run up, but like I would try to get your chips in place sooner than later and then just start scaling out of it. I think buying into stuff right here is like big risk. I'm not saying it can't be big reward, but it's inherently big risk. Like we've gone up so much in 2 weeks, so just be careful with everything you do. Can't emphasize that enough.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the take and for the little slice of alpha here on our show. Guys, if you want the full thing, if you want the full platter, you're going to have to tune into Boss Dogs tomorrow. It's Rossboss and Waff Dogs show. There they talk all things ordinals. You can get the full spiel and interact with them and ask them questions live there. Love this cross promotion. Jake, man, we have you on record for weeks now saying you're going to get into ordinals. Did you get a Nat Cat? Did you get into ordinals? Or are you still thinking about it? Where are you at, brother?
Dude, I know. I did not, honestly. It's literally just been sitting on my to-do list, like buy Natcats and puppets. But it's just like, I don't know. I think it's just because they keep going up. I'm just like, man, I want to get a dip, and then I miss the dip, and then I don't get into it. But I think it's just because there's been so much other stuff going on. It's hard to focus on ordinals and like get back into it. But I mean, hats off to you, Ross. I mean, what a call and what a job helping members as well. I mean, you made the video one like why you're bullish on Natcats, then you made a whole video on how to buy these Natcats before they were on Magic Eden. Um, which I think we might have talked about on the show previously, but just that kind of like I think, oh yeah, you mentioned about how like the information, like asymmetric information advantage or whatever that you have when it's hard to do something right, and you know how to do, but you know how to do it, and if you put in like just a little bit more work, like for instance, buying these Natcats through like this other marketplace and Discord, like other people won't put in that kind of work, um, and then being able to do that, one, you get like a lower price, right? Just because of this, because it's harder, and then as we see, once they get listed on Magic Eden, like they're skyrocketing again. So hats off to you, man. I did have a question. I know you mentioned like that this is the Netcast, they're built on this new I don't 100% understand it, but I think it's called DMT. This like new standard. Is there any other projects that have been built on this since then? And is there anything like that you're in particularly like bullish on or that you find is interesting outside of Netcats?
Yeah, great questions. And first and foremost, let me just shout out JJ in terms of the information asymmetry. I didn't know the words to it, but that's a concept he's been preaching for a long time. Just if it's hard, it's worth doing. So shout out to him for that mentality. And then there's some good articles that you can get into just in trading in general that I've been reading up on that help with that concept. But yeah, DMT is digital matter theory. And essentially, it's just taking data from the blockchain and using that as an input into generating other objects or collections, right? So basically, for Natcats, they took the block number as the primary input into what you see for their art. And then the patterns within that data, like within the block numbers, that's what's being used to generate Natcats. I have not seen a ton of projects that have come out since then. The things that I'm looking for are high effort art with the principles of DMT. So Nat itself is like a separate thing within DMT. So DMT is just building with that data, and then Nat is non-arbitrary token. So any collection that we had prior to this point was done with, um, a lot of manual inputs. Even AI or generative art, the person who created the art set all of the parameters themselves. Non-arbitrary tokens sort of hand the keys over to the blockchain, and they just say like, hey, you are going to create the rules based on these patterns that are found within your data. So it's non-arbitrary, right? It's not like someone premeditatedly decided to make all these traits. So that's what the Natcats did, and there are a lot of other Nat collections that have come after it, but they've all just been shitty Natcat clones, like Nat dogs, Nat monkeys. Like there's a bunch of stuff, and some of them have run up to like maybe a few $100. There haven't really been any so far that really caught my eye because they're just copycat clones. There was one project called Chaos that did okay. It reached maybe like $400, and I don't really know what happened to it since then. But I'm just looking for some high effort art collections that look really good and have a clean feel that use Nat and aren't just ripping off Natcats. So the pattern that the Natcats use to generate their collection, that's just one pattern. And if you're a developer or someone who's building out there, you can come up with different patterns and rule sets. And that would be the thing that I would be looking for the most. Like if someone came up with a rule set that was really unique, really interesting, and was something that had the potential to be templated across other collections, that would be one that I would go very heavy in on. So it's just a matter of looking for it. It doesn't exist yet, and I don't have anything to point you to, but like keep your eyes open for anything that leverages Nat, but talks about using a new pattern that hasn't been done before and see if it's fun and see if it plays on something cool. Like I'm sure there's going to be some eventually where it's like this one has blocks that leverage 420 and 69 and all of those meme numbers, and if they can come up with a pattern like that, I think it would be very successful. So I hope this answer wasn't too long winded, but I would look for like stuff that's evolving and not just copy pasting the Natcats template.
Beautiful, man. I appreciate the rundown. Um, Looking forward to you and Waf diving into it more on Thursday. I'm so pumped. There's the weekly ordinal show now.
Yeah, I think it's actually Tuesday, just to clarify for people
Oh,
listening.
is
It
it
should be
Tuesday
running.
now?
I think I gotta check. Yeah, it's subject to change because Raph and I both have some pretty IRL schedules, but I believe it's supposed to be tomorrow. We'll have confirmation in the event chat, but keep on lookout for that. Also, Jake, just wanted to piggyback off your meme coin stuff, dude. I totally agree on the Coinbase thesis and just looking on that app. I was talking to my roommate last night about the exact same thing, and you can't underestimate the power of normies coming into the space and how much that's going to run up. And like we've seen just momentous run ups on collections like Doge before because people just had this psychology of like, oh, it's so cheap, it's only $1. And sometimes that's all it takes. So one that I'm looking on and potentially going to open up a leverage long on is Bonk. I know it's on Coinbase now, and that's like the main reason why I'd be buying it is because people see that it's a fraction of a penny and they're like, I can buy thousands of these. And I think it kind of like makes them think it can go to $1, which I personally don't think it can. But just enough people thinking that out there who don't have the know-how of the space is an interesting trade concept. And sometimes you just have to like turn off the brain power, just completely right or left curve it, and that's sometimes how you hit some big winners. So that's one on my radar. Very curious if you've been looking at Bonk at all.
Yeah. I've been playing Bonk a little bit. I think that leads to another good point that I actually was planning on talking about is that in general, like I think these hot like the new coins are probably going to outperform the old coins. I think because for instance, the new ones I'd probably consider like as long as like the bigger ones would be Bonk, as you mentioned, Whiff, obviously, and Pepe are probably like the three of the biggest in terms of like market cap right now. All been ripping like crazy. Um, Even though I do think like Doge is gonna do pretty well probably in the next week or two. As normies come back, like they know that Doge is like is a household name. Like everyone knows what Doge is for the most part. And they're gonna want it to go to $1 again, like you said. Um, but I think there's a lot of bag holders with these older coins. And just I think the mindset of new coins, there's unlimited potential, right, with these new coins. They've seen the old coins fail in the past, right? But like these Doge and the Sheebs and whatever, they've seen them collapse before, but they haven't seen that happen for these new ones. I think that's just my own interpretation of what the mindset is going into this. But I think riding the hot new ones will probably be a better play than riding the old ones. Um, I've obviously been very vocal about how I have a big whiff bag, and I think that's my personal favorite. As far as like these higher cap ones, I just think it's the most memeable. It's just a cute dog with a hat. It's super easy to understand for anyone. I think it's the most like widespread normie friendly one out of all of them. I think the only thing not going for it is that it's a higher dollar amount in terms of like it's already like over $1 right now. Um, but I still think it's low enough that that won't matter too much. And then I guess some of the mid caps I want to shout out like Mog, Popcat, Trump. I think are probably all like decent mid cap ones, especially if Trump gets more and more of the headlines with election year. I know what's his name, Andrew Hang. I want to say not Wang, but Andrew. God, I actually might have butchered what his name was. I think it's Andrew Kang. Yeah, Andrew Kang. He has like a fund. He's a pretty well known trader, an investor. He wrote a whole big ass post about how his fund invested in like Trump and Trump related coins and NFTs. He put like millions into it. Just I thought it was a pretty good thesis just on like that's where the attention is going to be is Trump related stuff. And then that's only going to ramp up as we get closer to the election in November. And it kind of coincides pretty well with the market also doing well in that time and memes running in that time. So I think that might be a decent one. All political affiliations or whatever aside, just purely looking at the numbers. And then just in general, I think a good way. This is not something I'm personally doing, but if you're someone who likes to grind, right, and you're in the trenches, I think a good way of trying to get ahead of these memes. Uh, is going on is paying attention just to social media trends, like what's popping off. Like go on TikTok, see what the Zoomers are talking about. Um, Even if it's not like a specific coin, I think even though I think that is good, but even if it's just like a whatever the hot trend is, like right, like Stanley Cups, for instance, were a hot trend. Maybe they still are. I don't know. And like there's a Stanley coin that popped off, and like Zins, for instance, like everyone those little pouches, right? There's a Zin coin that popped off, right? So I think like paying attention to whatever the trends are, especially if there's a new one, and then trying to get on whatever that coin is, that meme coin, I think could be a profitable strategy if you are really kind of grinding away, or it gives you, I guess, a good excuse, a productive way to scroll through your TikTok endlessly. Um, but yeah, so I'm probably going to be focusing a lot on memes, I think, over the next few weeks, because I don't think this is over yet. I think we still have I think we're still going to get pretty wild from here in terms of where these memes are going.
Can you talk to me a bit about that though? How do you connect the two dots? Like you notice a trend. How do you just go searching for that trend to see if there's a coin for it, or are you just always monitoring new pairs and then when you see something that you know is a trend, you buy into it, or like is there a resource like is there somewhere that's making calls on like funny trendy shit coins? Like how do you connect the two concepts?
I mean, like I said, I'm not doing this. That was just a recommendation. If someone is grinding on TikTok, they could theoretically figure out like what's trending. I don't know. Like if you're around and like you're just seeing a common theme pop up, right? Of whatever it is. Again, like the Stanley Cups. Like people are talking about the fucking Stanley Cups like for crazy. And you're just like, all right, like wonder if there's a coin about Stanley Cup. Like you could just search Twitter, right? And you could probably find one
Yeah.
easily.
See, I'm totally with you. I mean, at least half of us are just terminally online or terminally on Twitter, bare minimum,
Right.
and you see the memes and the trends and stuff. Yeah, yeah. I'm with you. I'm just trying to figure out, like, yeah, how do you capitalize? So I guess you just go searching, try to stay away from honeypots, and it's a dangerous game out there.
Yeah. Yeah, find some of this obviously like do the bare minimum, make sure it's not a honeypot, or uh, make sure it has enough volume, and I don't know, you just ask someone in shitcoin trading chat if it's a honeypot or whatever, if you don't really know, and I'm sure they'll tell you. Um, there's plenty of experienced people in here. Get a second opinion before you buy in.
Beautiful, love it. We have the resources, use them.
Hey, do you mind if I ask a question?
GM, we got JJ.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
First
Yeah,
of
go
all,
ahead, man.
I've been telling everyone like they gotta not miss this show because I can't believe I've missed it for work like the last few weeks. Like I went back and listened to the YouTube one that I pinged you about last time, and you guys were talking about Voy and Hoo Hoo, and I don't see that in any other groups. So shout out to you guys. I think it's a great show. Can't miss it anymore. Yeah, I wanted to ask, something I've been thinking about is like it feels like the meta rotations this time around, at least to me, seem to be both quicker and more violent. I just wanted to know what your thoughts are on that. Cause like, you know, just back in November, you could get into Soul pretty much within like a month or two time frame and not really miss much of the move. But this time around with ordinals and like the recent meme coin run in the last few days, it does feel like you didn't have too much time to get into it before it ran up. So just wanted to hear what you guys think about that, or if you have any thoughts at all.
Yeah, man, I feel like that's like the never ending game, right? It's like where do I go next, or like where do I rotate next to? Uh,
Yeah, and it just feels like I don't know. It's like so explosive right now as well.
yeah,
I share the same exact sentiment. I feel the same way, and it's kind of kept me gun shy from getting into stuff because I feel like, oh, it's now I'm hearing about it because it's already popped off, it's exploded, right? Like I'm not going to enter now, but like you're saying, the moves are happening faster and more explosive, like more volatile. So it's probably just an effect of just the magnitude of everything getting bigger. As we go into like a bull cycle, and like we've been talking all episode about the normies coming in, like the normies, the meme, but like maybe so. Maybe the magnitude of these are just going to continue to get bigger and bigger, and we just gotta eyes forward and be ready to be quicker into the next thing. Not necessarily bump the tops of trends or anything, but just always be ready and not not sidelined and gun shy because we think you can't get bigger from here because it could surpass all of our expectations if we go full bull market, like super cycle type shit. But maybe a little hopium in there, but it's possible. I mean, I agree with. I'm seeing what you're seeing too. Like the stuff, it's getting crazy and it's happening fast, and it's like everybody is really sharp now. So yeah, well, where do we go from here? Does it just get bigger, or yeah?
Yeah, I don't know if I have like any like great wisdom there on like what to do. It's something I still struggle with. Like I certainly miss out on a ton of things.
Yeah,
Um,
like I've been talking to a lot of people about it too, because I'm like trying to figure it out, and it almost seems like you have to kind of trust the bullish signals right now, and then
mhm,
just ape and accept that the upside is more than the downside, and the people you trust are just good at what they do. Because like Natcats, for example, right? Like I did, I did my DD on it, and by the time I was done, it was like 2x already. But that also wasn't the top, right? So it's like it's kind of like in a bull market or pre-bull. I don't know what you want to call this, but it almost feels like just having exposure to the narratives and trends is better. Maybe that's super obvious, but um, it's just tough to adjust for myself personally after like 2
yeah.
years of let's over research and then invest when we feel confident, and that worked
Uh,
out.
yeah, I think it's also it can depend on like what your personal strategy is too. Like I think it's totally fine to like not be one that like goes with whatever the trend is, like and like stay on your thesis if you are more like mid to long term. If there's things that you really believe in, have conviction, and then just like stay with that, right? I'm someone that's a little bit of both. Like I have like different buckets for my allocations where I have longer term stuff, midterm stuff, like projects and teams that I really believe in, and maybe it's not the meta for it, but I'm gonna hold it back just because I think eventually that it'll come around to them. And then I also want to play like the short term plays too. I think something that's I try to do and like try to tell myself is that can help with this is like just stay curious, like be curious and be open minded. Like if you see people talking about something and like you think it's stupid, like okay, like there's a lot of stupid shit in crypto. That's fine. But maybe also at the same time, be like, all right, well, why are they talking about this? Like, what is interesting to them about this? Um, I think staying curious and open minded to things and not like immediately shutting them down, um, thinking you're like, I don't know, above it or that it's dumb. I think will help you will help you be earlier to the trends, right? Because a lot of times we see like we're especially a lot of us who are plugged in every single day, like in MVHQ, like we see things, like we see these stuff like before they even happen. A lot of times we miss out, even though we saw people talk about them. Like I missed out on Natcats, even though I've seen Ross and everyone talk about them. But I just wasn't like I wasn't like curious enough to really dive in enough to like get one, even though it sounded interesting. So I think like setting aside some time, maybe just like if you hear about something recently, then like doing a little bit more than just like a 5-second look at something, like set aside like 5 or 10 minutes instead and dive into that topic and see if that's something worth, exploring even more or even like investing in, I think is probably like the best way to attempt to get ahead or to attempt to switch before other people can is like just being a little bit more curious and into something before everyone's talking about it and it might be too late.
Yeah, thanks so much. I think that's great advice. And sorry to derail you guys a bit.
No, that was perfect, JJ. Appreciate you always, man.
Hey, yeah, just to also add a quick comment if I could. I do agree, like I just echo things are like violent. Um, these turnarounds are violent now and it's hard to kind of place your bets, I think. And just like personally and obviously not, NFA, just personally, like I've just been consolidating into like things that just been around for the past year, 2 years, like crypto gaming, AI. Those are two things that I just think um I don't know. They're definitely trendy like everything else. But they've had staying power before. So I think like if everything goes up, like okay, everyone's gonna be more or less good. But I'm trying to consolidate into a little bit higher conviction plays, and obviously we're degens, so we enjoy our little violent plays, but
Yeah.
that type of stuff is quick and a little dangerous.
Yeah, appreciate the insight there. I think that that kind of goes along to what Jake is saying and what you're saying as well. Like, I guess if you have a thesis on something and in this kind of market, if you end up being right, like let's say over the course of the cycle, maybe the market rotates into your thing as the meta, and then it has that violent explosion as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. I think maybe like I think a good way of doing it, and like if you are worried about missing out, if you are worried about like not catching someone has a hot mic, I'm not sure who. But if you are worried about not hitting these trends, for instance, I think just yes, keep your thesis plays and then just allocate a certain percentage, whatever it is. Maybe it's just a small percentage of your portfolio to like whatever the trend is, right? To try and to like be early to this trend or whatever. That way, like you're still in it. But at the same time, like a bulk of your portfolio is where you're really convicted, right? In the longer term. Like that could be a good way of playing it. Again, it just depends. It depends on the person, it depends on what your trading style is, what your strength is, what your investment thesis is, all those things. But I think just being conscious about uh portfolio sizing, where your strengths are, where your convictions lie, and how you're allocated toward those certain things, is something to kind of it'd be good to like continuously reevaluate.
Yeah, I echo that. Like just high conviction plays and just having flexibility to capitalize on trends, but definitely like consolidate into like high conviction plays. Can't go wrong with that. That's something that we've echoed here for years. So yeah, I echo that. Yeah.
Great advice all around. Great question. Love to hear from JJ and Mindful this morning. Yeah, I agree with what these guys are saying, man. It's like, and you don't have to if you feel like the game is changing, you can just lean into your strengths. You don't have to change with it. So yeah, long term conviction plays. I mean, hell, like seed rounds have been cooking tokens. If you're able to find like investments in that way, that could be where you can apply your research and have a longer time frame where you don't have to FOMO in. But I think even the Natcat example that you gave, JJ, where you said like you did your research and it 2x in that time. I mean, that could be people just YOLOing into it, and then but you also said it wasn't the top after you were done from there, so that could be other people that were doing their thorough DD as well. But just everybody's got a different approach, and you don't have to switch up your style for anything. You can always lean into your bag there.
Yeah, good shout. And I think one thing, like one adjustment I'm doing, maybe it's not the best, but I think we have so many sharp people, and you identify like who's sharp at what. And so, like, if I see something that's, you know, like Ross is bullish on this ordinal, like I can kind of forego doing as much research as I was doing, and then just like kind of ape in earlier, knowing that he likely, did a lot of that research already. It's just an adjustment that I'm trying to make going forward.
Yeah, something else, just sort of like a philosophy switch I've made recently is like, because you're always wary of people, and this is not an indicator. I'm not pointing this at Ross in any way. This is a mindset a shift that I've had a while back. Is just like never really think of someone as shilling their bags, right? If somebody's telling you about something that they bought, it's because they had enough conviction in it to actually put their money on the line, and like they're not just speculating. I mean, they are speculating, but they have uh, something at stake here, right? So it's like, please show me your bags. Like that, I would rather hear about something that you've bought into rather than something you kind of just heard about or know about. So yeah, it kind of takes a little bit of that friction away of like you're saying, like getting into it. It's like, all right, well, this person has bags of it. This person has bags of it. Like there's obviously at least something to it. So yeah, you can at least get a little exposure and then do your full research. But yeah, I just want to shout that out. Just a little philosophy switch that I've had the past couple months is like people showing their bags is a good thing, unless they're a known dumper, right? That's a whole different circumstance. But here in MVHQ, it's like if people are telling you about stuff they bought, it's probably something you should listen to because they're extra convicted in it.
Yeah, and the last tip that we've kind of just went around, back like 2021. I just heard it always echoed, just by people like JJ and Connor and liquidity is king, especially in a market where things are violent like this, and you just have access to your liquidity to be able to be flexible to access these plays, whether it's for just a short-term swing or something. Liquidity is definitely king. So, just having that in mind as well.
Yes, sir. I'd even sprinkle the eyes forward in there. We're getting sentimental. We got JJ in chat. Let's do it. Yeah, liquidity's king. Eyes forward. There's always going to be a next opportunity. Make sure you got something set aside for it. Love it. Ooh, feeling bullish this afternoon now, you guys. This is getting me going. It's like old times. Jake, do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about today, man? To get us going into the week?
I don't have anything major. I guess we could touch on some Blast stuff, since that was certainly hot topic last week. Yeah, I'd say largely like the launch was a little disappointed in my opinion. I think probably that's common sentiment for the most part. I was I was pissed that it opened early, honestly, because I was trying to get more sleep that day on Thursday. But there's an unofficial bridge, as we called it, that opened early before the actual Blast launch, and a lot of MVHQ people got in on there. But unfortunately, like the tokens really, it was really PvP, and there wasn't any like crazy big senders. Um, and in general, like the launch was a little bit confusing, and there's like a lot of different applications to where you could like. I feel like there's a lot of like split attention on different things, whereas yeah, I'm like trying to like do like a recap of like why it didn't go as expected. Um, and I think a lot had to do with the split attention as well, as that there's just so much ready to go right away. Um, that usually like when these new L2s pop off, there's like one like NFT project or one or two NFT projects, or like one or two shit coins or whatever. They're like has everyone attention, like Bald on base, for instance. Um, but in this case, there's already like, because of like the big main competition and the developer rewards, there's already so much stuff ready to go that and there's also like incentives to hold your ETH and also lend and all these different things. Basically, I felt like it like spread out attention and money to where it made it a little harder um, than I think what a lot of people anticipated to find like real cooks. But there still was some, thankfully. I think MVHQ in here did a great job. In general, the community, we had a ton of people in voice. We had like over 100 people in voice opening day, and the Blast Blur chat focus discussion was popping off. Um, Still is. There's still been plenty of opportunities. I think there's some good call outs. Finger did well. There's I remember called out Ole, which was like the token of like the friend tech version on Blast before like people started talking about that, and that did like like a 10 to 20x as well. And then I think there's a couple good NFT mints. I forgot which one is like, they all have Blast in their name, so it's confusing to me. But I think it was
Blast
Blastopians
runners
did really
or
well.
Blastopian,
Blast
yeah.
runners, Blastopians. I don't know.
Blastopians, yeah. Blast runners flop.
Yeah, that one did well too. And then there's like this yes thing that's getting a lot of attention and volume. I honestly have not had a chance to look into it. JJ, I'm glad you're here. I was kind of hoping you could like give a little insight into what yes is.
Yeah, yes, I can give insight. Yeah, we spent a lot of time researching it. It does seem like it's a new Ponzi on Blast. Yes, we love Ponzi's, especially on gases chains. Uh, it got aped super hard early on, and the first day came out like on Saturday night. It was kind of like an unexpected drop out of there. It's the same team that made Jimbo, which is like a coin on ARB that got exploited, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm not really selling it right now, but just giving a little bit of the backstory. I believe it has dev on it, and what it is they advertise it as an unruggable liquidity protocol, which sounds kind of too good to be true. But what it is there is an established floor price for the token at all times, and whenever the sorry, let me back up. the all the tokens are in circulation. None is held by the team or anything like that. And what the LP does is it tries to make profit by buying and selling the tokens, and it has this intense algorithm to lower and raise the price at which it buys and sells at. And so what happens is when it makes enough profit, it raises to buy all the tokens in circulation. It raises the floor price, right? So you get this kind of a weird pattern where people are buying, and then I forgot to mention that you can also borrow on the platform, which is big. You can borrow the floor price of your tokens um, from the protocol, and you can't get liquidated on that, which is weird. But the loans can expire over time. And on day one, I think it was like you could borrow up to 70% of the value of your token, right? So I'm going to post a graph in the voice hangout chart just so it's a little it's a little hard to follow without. So that green line on the bottom is the floor price, and you can see like it goes up over time. And the other chart is just the normal like price action of the token and what the current price is. So what people were doing, especially early on, is they were buying the token, borrowing, and then looping it to gain, effectively gain leverage, right, on the token. And so what you can see now is everyone who looped on day one is currently can't lose, right? So it's an interesting dynamic. You can see like the dumps when they happen; they're quite violent. The reds just sort of straight lines down, and that's because when the protocol senses that there's a lot of liquidity, a lot of yes tokens getting dumped into it, it tries to protect itself by condensing the range at which it buys at, so the liquidity gets thinner at those higher ranges, and that's why you see such like intense sell-offs at those parts. But the interesting thing is, as the spread gets closer and thinner between the current price and the floor price, it makes more sense to then again enter the Ponzi with leverage, right? Just because your risk is a lot lower. So it's a really cool idea. Yes is their first coin on the protocol, so the protocol itself is called Baseline, and they anticipate that it will move the space forward by other people deploying coins on their protocol. I can imagine, as someone put it very nicely, like imagine if an NFT project launched and all of their royalty fees were spent on buying back the floor at a baseline floor price, and that just kept going up over time. Like I think it's a good idea towards the path of sustainability and an interesting Ponzi at this point in time. So just kind of have a little exposure, want to see where it goes. But there's been, like Machi aping 100 ETH clips into it and looping.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's sorry that was long winded, but been
No,
pretty interested.
that was great. No, I appreciate it. I like learning about new protocols, new technology, tokens, whatever. Um, yeah, I don't know if
DJ,
I still like fully understand it. I probably won't until I like actually did it, like use the platform. But thank you. It's something to look out for now.
DJ, I wanted to chime in here quickly and just ask, have you heard anything regarding the FUD over a potential addition to supply and like a possible issue with their burn function? Because I was pretty early into Yes and felt good about it, but then I noticed that the market cap just kept like climbing up a ton, but the coin price itself was going down. So I thought it was an issue where 100% of the supply was out at first, and then it turned out it wasn't. And they're claiming that this is like a feature of the Ponzi, but I'm not really sure how them creating the supply was factored in. I've seen some people on Twitter think that it's a bug and it's supposed to have a burn mechanic to get rid of that stuff, but it's not there. I know the floor price is still going up, that like baseline locked in floor. But I was just curious if you have talked to any other people about that or seen that, because I've just kind of been sidelined since then until I can get a clear answer as to like why they're increasing the supply.
Yeah, great question. Lizard and I have been chatting about this a ton because it's a mystery that we were trying to figure out and still kind of trying to figure out. I think we've gotten more comfortable with it as we've chatted with like some of the devs or the team, and um ask some questions and dug into the protocol there. But essentially, the supply is not fixed for this. What happens is, I don't know if you've minted any like ERC 404s or participated in the I guess the public sales of those. So what happened with those was they used a V3 LP to seed those, and what happens when you get to the top of the range is you can't buy from the pool, right? So they have to mint more tokens to put at the top of the pool, and so the protocol does that automatically. It's supposed to burn tokens as well, but the contract is not verified, which is odd, and so a bit of it is kind of black boxed. And that's kind of where Lizard and I were getting uncomfortable with it, but after chatting with the team, I think we feel more comfortable with it that it's just adding to the top of the range. And so the current market cap is a bit misleading on Deck Screener because it counts the total supply, but you really have to look at like what's the circulating supply, like what's in the hands of the people that have it and not the protocol, because that's what will count towards raising the floor price as well. It gets a lot more technical than that, so I apologize if that didn't fully answer it. But
No, it
hopefully
absolutely
that
did. I was just curious if you had any. Yeah, yeah, 100%. I just wanted to bring that up and see if you had any clarity because something I was looking into and appreciated the shout in the show. But yeah, definitely appreciate it, and I'll definitely keep digging in and reach out to you directly if I see anything else.
sweet, sweet. But yeah, I mean, definitely risky at this point, right? Like, unverified contract. It's pretty much been up only, in terms of the floor price, and it's kind of cool because if you just buy spot and then the floor goes above your spot, like you just can't lose at that point. But as we all know, with these Ponzi's, um, eventually the lunch bell rings, or the Grim Reaper's bell rings, but hopefully still early on this.
Great shout, great coverage. Yeah, appreciate you bringing the question up, Jake. I hadn't even heard of this, and I'm on mobile, so I'm still out here. It's like I'm out in the wilderness, no internet, but it seems too much to dive in on mobile. But the chart looks interesting, and thank you for dropping that link there, JJ. I have to check this out when I get back to the PC. All right. We got anything else? Anybody got anything else? Anything else you guys are looking at or have questions about? Love the energy here. Just kind of open forum, chop it up. If anybody has anything they want to bring up. Otherwise, yeah, Ross,
I
what's
want
up,
to
man?
leave one more chime in, and sorry for chiming in so much. Just have so much on my mind, and this has been such a relevant episode. So I always appreciate you and Jake holding it down Monday morning. I was talking to the Lizard Capital over the weekend, and I was asking him about potentially aping into some project with a lot of my bankroll, basically looking at golden ratio and being like, dude, like there's a thin floor. I think this is good. Do you think the cycle will continue? And he said to me that I was asking the wrong question, and the right question should be, are you comfortable with that money going to zero? And what is your risk and what is your reward? And I just kind of wanted to, again, if anyone's listening to this and any trade that you are taking, please consider the US dollar value that you're putting into the trade and really ask yourself, would you be comfortable if it goes to zero? Like anything can happen in this space. We've seen before where wars have broken out and floor prices have, dumped overnight. News can happen in this space. Like there's always a chance, even in this hyper bull market, that things can go down. So if at any point you're thinking of buying the top of a collection, I would just not only ask, like, is it going to keep going, but what are you risking to what are you potentially going to be gaining? And are you really going to be in a comfortable position if it does go to zero? Like a lot of us have already changed our lives substantially here. It could do amazing things with the money we've made. So don't lose your shirt trying to get greedy. Like definitely keep being good traders, keep thinking ahead and making those smart moves. There's plenty of moves to be had, but like when I talked to him and he gave me that advice, I just thought that was amazing advice. So I wanted to share it with everyone here.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout out. Shout out Lizard Capital for helping me with the Yes protocol. We were looking at that all weekend.
Great shout, Ross. Yeah, always good to remember. We got two questions here in chat. Jake or JJ, if either one of y'all want to take a stab at these. Scocko's asking about optimism on DOP, the never-ending pre-sale, which I think may be ending. That could be breaking news. And then also asking about Merlin, Voya, and Hoo Hoo. Please pump my Hoo Hoo bags.
Yeah,
I was gonna mention something about. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry, guys.
yeah. The DOP presale does end. It's gonna end on the 7th. I'm pretty sure is the last day, and it's at right now. It's at the final rung of 8 cents. Um, and then it should be over. We the TGE, they said it again, is supposed to be Q1, so it hopefully, I mean, it ends at the end of this month, so it should be this month. Hopefully that doesn't get pushed back. That's obviously a risk that could happen. Personally, honestly, this is probably more of a DGen one for me, where I did put in like a decent amount, but I didn't do it as much research as I probably should have. I'll admit that. So I don't know how much analysis I can give. I guess it's more so around my thinking was more so around, again, I did like some baseline stuff, and it's a legitimate team, and I don't think it's a rug. They're docs people who have been in uh part of other successful ventures in the past. Like they're one of them's like a co-founder of Cardano, even though Cardano is not a good example, but it did pump a bunch at least, and it did get a bunch of attention. So that's what we're really looking for here in this pre-sale. And I do think it seems like a legitimate use case of like, trying to solve that privacy thing. But in general, I guess my thesis is, I think I might have talked about this last time, but private sale rounds, I think are going to be largely like pretty good plays, especially now when when we're heating up. I think when like these unlocks are happening over the next few months or sometime this year, just being able to get in early on a lot of these usually are pretty good risk reward ratios, right? Like I think there's a chance, like we saw with Portal, where they can do like a 30x right away. um Maybe we lose some on some of these, but I think in general, just like firing off on a lot of these opportunities when it is peak bull time and when we're starting to enter, deeper into the bull market. And the unlocks are going to happen within the bull market as well. I think it's just good risk reward in general. So that's why I fired off in general. I also think there's a good chance they get a Binance listing because they've worked with Binance in the past. They've like sponsored Binance events. It seems like they have a close relationship with them, and that would certainly help the token as well. That's my thoughts. Again, I don't have like a great background of research around it.
I'm just waiting for them to say, all right, the pre-sale's done, time for the post-sale, and just keep fundraising. No, I'm not trying to FUD. I'm not FUD. Aslo, did you have something you want to add there on the DOP discussion?
Yeah. Sorry about that before, Jake, too. And Scott Co is thinking the same way. I was going to mention DOP as well. I've done maybe a half a step past what you're saying, Jake. Not like all the way, but like maybe half a step past it. And I feel like in general, it is going a little bit. It's one of these things that feels like that's going to go a little bit overlooked relatively to what the opportunity is here, I feel like. So who knows how it ever is going to pan out. It's tough to tell. But the thing about this is that it's like we've limited data, but like the core things that we know about it show that it's like pretty parallel to Portal, in fact, in terms of like the amount of capital roughly that's been raised, what we know about the tokenomics. And in this case, we actually know a little bit more. So we know it's deflationary. I think Metarova shared that the other day. We also know that this is like not only, it's a really good use case, but it's also a ginormous use case, right? It's like a chain link sized use case in this case, right? And you put all those pieces together and the fact that they understand bonding curve as well, right? They've had increasing prices, so they understand the premise of price go up. Like they're not clueless to that, right? And it just feels set up to be, again, like it's just very asymmetric bet, in my opinion. Does that mean it pans out? Of course, like who knows? No idea ever, but it just feels very, very asymmetric, and I don't feel like it's getting. I'm happy we're talking about it because I don't feel like it's getting talked about quite as much as what it may deserve right now. But like you said, Jake, the two risks that exist here, if any, or they delay the timing, in which case you could have used your capital for something else, even if it worked, or do they, there's some other big issue or something that happens, like a big one, right? But other than things like that, it seems very, very asymmetric from what I've seen.
Good shout. Appreciate the research. Does anybody know if the testnet portion of that, like the farming portion, is that still active, or did they cut that off? If anybody,
it's done.
It's done.
It's finished.
Okay, got it. Say, damn, might have to fire that back up, man. Get back on the horse. Okay, all right. Good to know. And then I guess anything else on DOP, and then we can swap over and answer this other question on the Merlin ecosystem. They were asking if Jake had any thoughts on the endpoints or Voya or who change in strategy, anything there.
Puck Change asked on a couple coins on Merlin Chain, Voya, and then the M tokens. I'm kind of waiting on these M tokens, which are basically liquid staking tokens for people who have staked their Bitcoin or their NFTs or whatever on Merlin Chain. They're gonna, before they can actually unstake these tokens, which is when the halving is. It's gonna be the same time as the halving. They're gonna give out these M tokens, which are liquid staking tokens that they can only use within the Merlin Chain ecosystem. And like I said earlier, there's over 3 billion TVL on this chain that will be unlocked with these staking tokens, and they'll be able to use them. They'll be able to interchange them in different dApps on Merlin Chain, and swap them, right, for if they wanted to, for some other tokens. So I think just that addition of liquidity coming to the chain is gonna be pretty bullish for these underlying tokens that are already on the chain. And the biggest ones right now are like Voya, I think is the biggest one. Right now at around like 40 million market cap, and then Hoo I think is around 10 million. I haven't looked in a couple days, so I could be wrong. But just those market caps are also so small compared to what the TVL coming in is, that for my bags, I'm currently just holding and waiting for this liquidity injection to come into the ecosystem, and hopefully it'll pump the rest of the tokens up a bit. That's personally my play, along with just farming on a bunch of wallets, hoping to get Merle airdrop.
I'm glad you brought up the liquidity unlock. I wanted to mention this earlier when you were talking about the Rocky launch to Blast. I think I tried to copy trade that philosophy, right? With all the blast, we had the Blast back door, so we got in early, a few hours early, and we knew they were going to unlock 2 billion in liquidity, and we thought that would pump all the coins, but we severely underestimated Pac-Man and company's ability to keep our ETH within the flywheel and locked in and incentivized staking. I mean, there's a lot of friction to get it out. You had to sacrifice your points, and then also you had to bridge it, and the gas was atrocious. So it just didn't play out like we thought it would. But hopefully that's a different story with Merlin, and history won't repeat itself. But that was definitely something that I wanted to say earlier when you were talking about the Blast launch or whatever, and kind of not living up to the hype and the expectations, because like that much liquidity didn't come pouring in. I think people are still, I don't know, compounding the Ponzi. If anybody's in the Blast flywheel, they can maybe chime in there. But yeah, it's definitely shouldn't have underestimated Pac-Man. Should have known better at this point. But so, yeah, I imagine a lot of people still have their stuff locked in there.
Yeah, that was unfortunate for those like myself who were like trying to get in early on these shit coins, and it just didn't happen. Like you said, like I think that the fee, if we're like looking back and doing like a postmortem, I think like the fee to transfer over just initially in gas like prevented a lot of people from even like coming over to the chain, especially on like the first day. It was like over $100, like $200, just to do that, just to gamble on some shit coins. Like people probably aren't going to do that. And then also like the incentive, they heavily incentivized not doing anything with your ETH, or only using certain platforms that are linked on the Blast website with your ETH, which was something I didn't expect as well. I didn't know about. That kind of hurt the chances of people, using that liquidity right in other areas. So that was unfortunate, but we live and learn.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. All right, I got a hard out here in 10 minutes. Of course, we can keep talking about anything and everything here in BC as long as you guys want to hang out, but I have to shoot. So anything that you wanted to go over before we wrap the episode officially here?
No, I'm all good. I think we covered a lot. This was a great one.
Man, love hearing all the voices in here. Extra special shout out to JJ for tuning in, catching up on the show, swinging by and blessing us with his voice.
Hey, appreciate
For
you guys
those
for
that
doing
maybe
this.
newer members are unfamiliar, JJ is co-founder of No, yeah, we love it, man. We love having the conversation and getting VC going. This the whole idea is to kind of bring VC back, right? Because things are heating up, and I just want to give you a shout out for being co-founder of VC. For those who may not know, but JJ is a goat and a legend, so we appreciate him swinging through and chopping it up with us here. You're always welcome, brother. Love to have you in here, hear your takes, and get the conversation going and stuff. But Jake, unless you have anything else, final words here, go ahead and send it off. Appreciate you guys tuning in and be here same time every week, noon Eastern on Mondays. Wake and Jake, get your week started. Figure out what to be watching for the week. Jake, any final send off here?
No, just echoing your sentiment. Thank you, JJ. I appreciate you hopping in, man. Thank you, Ross, of course. The Alpha, as always, on Ordinals. Excited for the show tomorrow. Sorry, I was wrong about the Thursday one. It is. You're right. It is tomorrow. We have it on the event schedule. I think 4 p.m. tomorrow Eastern. Him and Waft Dog, new Ordinal show. Check that out. That's a ton of Alpha there as well. Then thank you, Mindful. Thank you, Islo, for popping in here as well. Yeah, we'll be riding all day though. I'm not gonna be leaving this voice chat. I do have to take a piss though. But outside of that, we'll be here. Hopefully finding some cooks and chopping through whatever you guys want to chop through. But thank you guys for tuning in. Much appreciated.